And we're live. What's going on, everybody? My name is Tom, aka Cortex Zero, and welcome to Total Disclosure Live. Ty will be joining us shortly. He's just working on some things in the background here. Love his perspective is here with us. What's going on, buddy? How are you? How have you been? Happy New Year, all the things. What's up?
Oh yeah, man. I've been good, man. Like it's been going pretty well. Very, in this leading up year of everything that's gonna probably happen.
I'm excited. I don't know about you, but I have a very strong sense of excitement, especially with some of the things that I've been seeing online, which I'm sure, will get mentioned at some point during the show. But we have a really, really good show tonight as far as our subject matter is concerned. We're going to be talking angels, demons, UFOs, artificial intelligence, you name it. We're there. And I think Ty's here. What's up, Ty?
I don't know. I don't know if I am.
Yeah. You sound loud and clear and good.
Yeah, man.
Better?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the mic's
Oh
rolling.
man. All
There
right.
it is.
I switched. I almost threw my whole studio out the window into the trash. Because
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
what good are you for if I can't talk and speak? You motherfucker. Thank you for doing that intro for me. Welcome to
problem.
Total Disclosure. My name's Ty. I'm usually the host that starts the show. But unfortunately, I had my first real I don't even know. You said I was only coming through one headphone?
That's right. My left side.
I
Only the left
I
channel.
wonder if that's ever happened before and I didn't know. You know
Not
what I
since
mean?
I've been here. Not. It has not happened since I've been on the show at any point.
Huh.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, well that's good to know. But yeah, angels and I heard you talking about it. You kind of introduced it a little bit. Now, Hubie had mentioned this to me earlier, or Love had mentioned this to me earlier about he told me a topic that he wanted to discuss, and it branched off for me thinking about even down to Virginia and what James Fox recorded those three girls saying that they thought that they saw a devil, right? But other people, like even people from Stephen Greer's camp, have claimed miraculous healing. The other people have claimed that they're the gods, the Anunnaki from Nubia or whatever the world was. I can't remember.
Nibiru.
Nibiru, thank you.
Yeah.
And there's so much. I guess it's whatever lens you want to look through. So, what's your knowledge of or what's your gut tell you guys that is it angels, demons, or none of the above? Just to kind of break the ice.
Love, why don't you go ahead and start off because I believe this was your idea.
Okay, so essentially, what I believe is that, I've been researching this. Okay, so when you look into the new age, right? Essentially, nothing's new about the discoveries, or nothing's new under the sun. But what I was trying to get through is that a lot of people I see that believe that, oh, extraterrestrials are angels, extraterrestrials are demons, but then when I look at the new age where people are miraculously, doing healing, the kundalini, spiritual awakening, everything that ties into that manner, seems to be that a lot of people believe it's a deception, especially when it comes to religions. And the thing about it is that, for me, it's still mind boggling that a lot of people can still consume something that is essentially, because of what they believe. They say if it goes against the scriptures, if it go against God or the word of God or Jesus Christ, then it shouldn't actually meant to be, because that's the and that's the problem with a lot of these things, is that when people take what they can only take a reference from and not come into their own conclusions of why they think that for themselves, why why do Christians truly believe that in theory, that this is all just a deception and we're all being deceived, and that
Now,
we're going to be taken into the antichrist.
now I kind of get this confused a little bit. The Pope, what religion is that? I thought that was Christian. No,
Catholicism.
Yeah, he's a Catholic.
Ca- Catholic. Okay, so Christian and Catholic.
I mean, they're
always,
so
I always
similar.
I know I always get everything so mixed up. Like the couple times I got brought to church, I believe it was Protestant. So I don't even know what that means. And I went to that church. I never cared for it. But so the Pope had come out, and said, they're all God's children. Even if there are extraterrestrials, right? They're all God's children. So even amongst, and then, we could drop it down to Buddhism, where we go a step further, right? And there's it's fundamentally in their beliefs that, there are other beings that inhabit the world or the universe. So, it's structured in there. So even amongst religion, this subject is divided, not just among UFO researchers or UFO connoisseurs or even the common goer, but everyone, right? If there was another being, whether superior or not, an intelligent species, does it fall into that category of, being one of God's children or part of this, whatever we're in? So why do you think that is?
I feel like a lot of people point to this where, okay, so essentially in religious, culture, they believe that the people are subjecting themselves more into the creation than the actual creator, if you get what I'm saying. People focus more on the creation itself than the creator, which, created us. But I truly believe that we all ascended from the same matter, from the same universe, from the same galaxy, just like everything else was born into the same thing that we are born into our lives. So whether God's angels or extraterrestrials, I believe they are part of God, because people make it seem like it only applies to us humans, like, oh, if we don't do this or do that in a certain way, we're gonna be tormented in hell, or what people believe.
Now, what does that sound like to you? Because what that sounds like to me is a way to keep people in line without as many distractions as we have today. How do you do that in a world that's centered around living at the time was survival, right? Survival of the fittest, survival of just the best, right? At a time when that's real, I guess really not survival of the fittest at that time, if we're going even further in, towards the Renaissance and even further than that. But for a long time, I feel like these religions were really a way because even in the darkness, right, or after a catastrophe, humans seek other humans for comfort. Now, it's almost intuitive on our part, but like even as children, we look at adults and we think they have it all figured out. They know what to do in every single situation. It's not till later on that the big secret's taken out and revealed, that nobody fucking knows what's going on, and we're all just winging it, literally day by day, right? That's what they don't teach you in school. But with the religious beliefs, I have a hard time buying into anything that humans wrote down or humans tell me. Yeah, it's like it's comforting to think about, the afterlife being so like, oh, cool, we go up to heaven and we live out our best moments just forever. But what if it's even more complex than that, right? With what you're saying, right? With everything's connected, not just here, but everywhere, right? We're one consciousness. That's far more complex and interesting to me. So why are we afraid to even think about it?
People are stuck in their ways. That's the problem. Like, good example being, I was raised Catholic, right?
By the way, and I'm not shitting on or casting any doubt or disbelief,
Not at all.
for anyone towards their own religion or faith. But
Right.
for me personally, this is where I come from.
Yeah, I guess I'll preface everything that I'll say tonight with that same disclaimer that, hey, more power to you to practice what you preach. Believe whatever you want as long as you're not hurting others. That's kind of like my life mantra. But I was raised Catholic, and I 12, 13, 14 years old, and I began to really ponder what I was actually hearing. Because, when you're a kid and you're at church, you're not really paying full attention.
Listening.
And I began to pick up on things that reminded me of, for example, ufology. Like, I remember being 13 years old and picking up the Bible and turning to Ezekiel. And I'm like, this sounds like an encounter, like all these different things. And then I look at the whole structure of Catholicism, just for example, and I'm like, you got your camp that says, hey, this is the inspired word of God. And then you have your other camp that says, no, these are the words of God. There's a big distinction there. So,
Now,
go ahead.
now, oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. I just had something. I literally just had, I swear to God. Keep going.
So, I think the issue is that when you are raised in that lifestyle and you're raised in an environment where you're taught these things, you are being indoctrinated. And again, I'm not, when people hear the word indoctrination, it gets a negative connotation, but really it just simply means that this was the environment that you were raised in, and as a result, your beliefs have been molded by that architecture around you. There are those of us like myself who broke away from it because we were thinking on our own, and we were like, hey, I got problems with A, B, and C. But then there are some people who don't go that far in their thinking, and they're comfortable staying where they're at. That's why there's an issue. Those are the people that are not honestly open-minded enough to take in this information and digest it. And sometimes as a result, there is a reaction, and that reaction is fear.
Well, and there was even, I mean, and this is to Love's point about how, you know, if we all we're all derived from the same thing, right? Where there was a guy, I can't remember exactly what his name is. It's like, sounds like a French name, and I remember Richard Doty speaking about him, saying that the beings that he was in contact with had given him a statue, or like something what we'd call a statue of a what they called supreme being, right? It was who they, you know, consider, not God wasn't necessarily the word that they used, but it was what we would translate to a God. So, you know, if you're to, you know, believe that believe that story, or, you know, even that narrative, that even what we're seeing, what we perceive as something otherworldly or even godly, has its own belief system, right? What if it's just a chain that goes up, right?
I've thought the same thing. Yes.
But it's just never ending, right? And it's just everyone is looking up.
It's the
'Cause
micro
that's the
and
only
the
way to
macro.
look, right?
It's
But-
like there's the world of the microscopic, and then you go down to the quantum. It's like, how do we know it doesn't just keep going infinitely, and we just don't have the tools to see any of that yet?
Right. You know, that leads us down a well of, you know,
The fractal.
different directions, interdimension, you know, multi-dimensional, infinite Earth theory. But Love, I do want you to finish up what, you know, on talking about what you were telling me earlier, and kind of explaining it to me, because when you practice CE5, you know, even my co-host, when I asked him, I said, "Would you ever do it with me?" He said, "I don't want to summon demons." I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "It sounds like you're practicing the occult." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, no, it doesn't. And then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, fuck, maybe it does.
Yeah, look, and you see, look, and this is the problem with
Do people ever call you
like
an occultist?
me. I mean, me personally, I mean, I've never been actually called an occultist myself, but like, you know, I have friends who joke about it, you know. But essentially, I feel like the thing about it is that since they referenced the occult, and yes, the occult actually did have these types of encounters, you know. Like when you look at people like Aleister Crowley, you know,
I was just gonna bring him up. He's an
and
interesting cat.
Jack
yeah,
Parsons.
and that's the thing. Like, you see, I'm not a person who thinks that you need to be in a circle to do these sorts of things, you know. I feel like if you me like take me as an example. I discovered this by myself. I didn't need anyone to tell me what is this and how's that, or I just did it, you know. I just started communicating. I started making contact by myself. And the thing is that um when you say like when your co-host told you that, oh, you're summoning demons, you see there's a lot of people who are believers that when you open yourself to these types of realities, you are allowing things to come through, you know, without you
Which
even
I've heard
realizing.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, like without you even realizing that you're actually being vulnerable to the things that can get into you, because you're opening yourself subconsciously, you're opening your consciousness up to everything around you. So anything that's negative can definitely come into your life. I cannot deny that. But there is a way to protect yourself from it. You just have to be strong towards the things that you are going to look forward to when doing these things, because a lot of Christians think that, like for instance, in the Bible, it claims, it says that when you're sober, it's a lot easier. It's a lot harder for something to attack you than when you're not. It's kind of the same way when you open your reality, your third eye, your
You know what's
child.
so funny about that is, uh, I think we talked about this before, is about when I said I was in, when I did the DMT, when I've done DMT and went to whatever place it brings you to, I felt like I was being rushed back into my body, almost as if like, bro, you shouldn't be here. Someone's gonna take your fucking body. Like what it seemed like I was being rushed, like and you go look at anyone or listen to anyone's story of DMT or an experience like it, right? There's always it and one other thing. And the other thing doesn't really speak, but it's kind of surprised that you're there, right? It's not, it's a feeling that you get. Now, I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have either done it yourself, but there is a feeling, like it's almost like communicating some other nonverbal way, but I felt like I was being, like I shouldn't have been there, right? Like like my body was, maybe didn't have me for a minute. And then like I slammed back into my body, and what if at that time something can take control of you? There's, if any of it's true, it's all true. Or, if any of it's a possibility, it's all a possibility. So that's the way I look at it. There is like, nothing sounds crazy or culty to me anymore. I'm kind of more open-minded.
Everything's on the table until it's not, like I just said in the chat. You have to consider everything at this point. And it's really simple. Go read experience or literature, and these accounts line up with like 12 different theories. And this is why I'm kind of like, well, maybe they're all happening. Like you were just saying with DMT, I did DMT, and I got a similar sensation where it was like, it's not that I wasn't supposed to be there, but that curiosity of the presences around me being like, hey, where the hell did he come from? That was definitely there. And then that rush back into your physical shell, that was definitely present.
So, Love, do you think that, possession and stuff exists, where genuine, like demon possession?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I believe in.
See, I've always I don't know why, but it's like, it's always where I fucking had the hardest time believing in it. In that kind of stuff. I guess it's just like the magic people. People also talk about magic. It's very hard for me to like truly believe it. But continue.
Essentially, what I think, okay, so I was saying, the possession part, it's not what you see in the.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I was just answering this.
Oh, I feel that.
Thank
Essentially,
you for $2 super chat as well.
So essentially that, yeah, I do believe in possession, because you see, it's not like it's not what they show in the movie. I don't believe in that part, like, oh, everyone goes crazy and then the bed starts lifting. Like, no, that I don't believe in that kind of possession. The type of possession I believe in is that people who, like are being controlled or mind controlled, by like certain things, either by influence, by like I believe in spirits too. Like spirits can also possess you as a person if you allow it to.
Right.
Everything in this world has free will. So, but if you allow a spirit, or it's like something else controlling you and telling you what to do, like the same people who hear voices in their heads and tell them what to do, and then they go crazy
right, but now could you chalk that up to mental illness?
Okay, well, with mental illness, like I could, but then at the same time,
you know,
But then at the same,
kind of misidentified again, right? Like, not to cut you off, but let's talk Salem witches, right? They kind of were just smart women, you know, educated women, and random women, right? Misidentified as witches and burned for no reason, right? Uh, Maybe orbs in the sky, or back, you know, back then they would see it and think angel. Now we say UFO. You see how things change over time, right? And that's all I'm saying is possession, you know, mental illness, like people that do hear things in their head. We know that's a real thing, but we know it to be mental illness, not possession.
okay, but at the same time, you know, like people who also do like for instance, like I do CE5 and I have contact, and you can also, you know, sometimes like I be like, it's not a voice that you hear, it's more of a feeling that you get, you know, when you are
Okay.
doing, when you are taking in whatever you are communicating with. I feel like it's the same way with everything, because I feel like possession, like and mental illness, you know, um because mental illness, I feel like you can spot the difference between someone who's actually mentally ill. Let's say a normal person, right? A normal person with no mental illness, one day starts getting all these feelings of, like crazy, crazy feelings of doing that to somebody, or going somewhere and hurting someone. Like I feel like that's them being influenced by something else. Maybe possession doesn't have to be like full body on, but objects that you're not able to see, that can physically control you and touch you
Right. And maybe they're
without you
not
realizing it.
yeah, maybe they're not benevolent. You know, maybe we perceive it as malevolent, and it's really not. I don't know. There's so many ways down this rabbit hole, but I really, you know, there was this episode. It happened to be, I can't remember what series it was now. It was this same like unsolved mysteries, that there was a UFO episode, and right after the UFO episode, there was one about a tsunami, and then, you know, cab drivers seeing ghosts, and there was one priest guy who talked about a woman that kept coming in saying she was possessed, and that was like the first possession story, that I was like, fuck, that might have actually happened. Like, I believe this guy. He does not seem like a liar. Like, you know, it just didn't feel so. I highly recommend that episode if anyone can figure out what
And I've
episode it
seen
was.
It was
It was
really
so
good.
it was actually really, really compelling,
Very.
for me, and that's what brought me to the paranormal, because the paranormal is where I used to draw the line. I kind of still do, to be honest, but I'm getting there. You know.
The more you learn, the more you're going to see.
Yeah, the
that,
more I
there's
learn,
a
the more
lot
I'm
out there.
getting.
But think
yeah.
about it this way too. What if? So all we have is science, right? Like that's our perspective. That's how we interpret the world. We have our tools that we use to try to figure things out and hypothesize. Now, for all we know, it may be possible that what we diagnose as mental illness is quote unquote spiritual possession. But then when we, feed someone drugs, or prescribe them medication to treat it, that because we only know so much about the brain, for example, schizophrenia, right? What if what people are experiencing, seeing while they have that condition, what if they are real, but they're
Right.
in a
They're
void somewhere?
Yeah, they're piercing some sort of veil.
Right, and the medication is literally just blocking your brain from
that's
intaking
fucked.
that information. Like that's what I know someone personally that dealt with schizophrenia pretty hardcore.
It's so fucked. I never thought
That's
that
what
way.
that's what they believe, and it's
Imagine
possible.
Imagine that we're
Man, I
the
want to add to
fucking
that.
pondered one. Oh, we're the dumbed down ones.
Yeah, like exactly.
Holy shit.
That's
Look-
exactly what I'm getting at. That what we think is mental illness and what we think is possession, like we have it all wrong. Like it's not necessarily, oh, you're under full control. It's the influence. You're now making crappy choices. You still retain your personality. You still retain free will, but it's influence. It's a nudge. It's not like in The Exorcist where she's crawling down the stairs and has no control over her body and her arms being lifted up by
Right.
something that isn't there. You're still there, but you are making these decisions, but it has this just enough influence on you to change what those decisions will be.
Yes, it is called Unsolved Mysteries. If I had the title right,
Great
it
show.
was like
Yep, that's
it
it.
was the new one. The new one that they
Yes,
did.
it's amazing.
Really well done. Both of them. Both of the episodes I watched were really well done.
It's a good show.
And don't let me forget that we're going to talk about the hybridization thing. But I also would love to see that 23-minute video that Lou talks about because in that video he also says that you can see occupants of or at least outlines. Like that's how detailed this video. Yeah, that's how detailed this video is.
I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, that you might be. He says you might be able to see occupants. You know?
Oh my God.
And if he's saying that, it just blows that whistle for me. Where I'm like, dude, if only. And I said it the other day. The Holloman Air Force Base landing. Mm-hmm. If that footage exists, it's the holy fucking grail.
Have you seen the footage?
No, I mean.
Like the little piece of, have you ever?
Oh, the little piece that was in past, present, and future? Yeah.
Where it's like the little white dot coming down?
Yeah,
I saw a longer version of it the other day that I found on Reddit. It's just a couple seconds longer, but I noticed the movement. I'm like, that's not a helicopter. That's not a plane. Like, it just, there was something about it. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah. And
if that
Christopher
fucking
Sharp
footage,
says it happened. He says his sources are telling him that it happened.
And everyone that, unlike other fucking cases, anyone who talks about this one says I haven't heard anything debunking it, or at least anyone coming out saying no, that shit never happened.
Right?
And it's all people like what? No.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah, and it does make you wonder because and when they stepped out, I don't know if you remember the detail, but how they talked about the detail. They said that they kind of looked like gray Egyptian.
Yes, Egyptian. Christopher
like
Sharp
Egyptian
in his AMA
features.
said that the other day. He
Right.
said it was Egyptian features, yes.
Which obviously, then we start thinking about these guys and what more do they have to play in this whole role? And then the Anunnaki and, could that all be, could there be that ninth? I mean, we've speculated about a ninth planet, right? Or a planet X, I should say.
Yep.
It'd be the 10th, right?
It would be.
Was Pluto the 9th technically and then taken back?
Yes.
Yeah, Planet X was the 10th.
It would have been the 10th, so now.
But now it's the 9th because Pluto's no longer technically a planet.
Man, Pluto's a planet. Stop.
I grew up with fucking Pluto as a planet.
Right, they had like the nursery rhyme
Yeah.
thing.
So I always consider it a planet still.
Do
So
you
let's
remember
call it Planet X.
My very elegant mother just sat upon 9 planets. Yeah, I remember that. And it's just the first letters of each planet.
Do you think that there's any credence to that we are maybe either A, hybrids and, like what, the hybridization program, the let's say new age version of it, or even B, the older age version of it, of that we were created as a slave force and then, given free will, basically. And we've kind of gone from there.
Yes, I think this is all very possible. I actually had a thought the other day. I was watching Concrete podcast. Great show, by the way. If you haven't
the one that
watched
starts with a K, right?
Yes. Literally right now, it's like my favorite podcast. Like, I love Joe Rogan. It's still numero uno, but lately...
Yeah, Rogan's guests have been lame lately.
I haven't really been watching, but Concrete has really been grabbing my attention. And he's even, he's nice enough to take the time to respond to me on Twitter and acknowledge me, so kudos to him. So... he had a guy on that was talking. I can't remember his name right now, but I'll try to grab it before the show's over. And they were talking about ancient advanced civilizations. Like, we're in Graham Hancock territory. And this guy had gone out on a couple expeditions with him. And I had this thought, because the information he was giving, it wasn't just like a repeat of like, oh, here's some stuff that, it was clearly done with, straight lines, like all the usual stuff. No, this was way beyond anything I had ever heard before. And I was always on the fence about this. Now I'm beginning to tip over the fence. And I'm like, wait a second. Because my dad had mentioned this to me as a kid. He was like, yeah, I think it's possible that we've blown ourselves up a few times and then just restarted. So I thought to myself, what if there were these, you have these cyclical cataclysms. There's a book about it that they even mentioned called The Adam and Eve Story, which I'm actually in the middle of reading, and it's fascinating, right? That book was classified by the CIA for years. Now, A, why would they do that? And B, why is there still information in that book that they have redacted, right? So keep that in mind. Not only that, but I'm like, wait a second. Let's say there was an advanced civilization on this planet, and let's say their technology wasn't so much based in metal and like electricity, but what if it was like stone and harmonics, and it was just like, it was different, but it was still advanced? They knew something was coming cataclysmically, and they left. And what if that's some of what we're seeing out there, these UFOs? What if they're just
Coming back.
what if they're just the progenitors of who we are now, and they're just keeping tabs on their old home, right?
It's
Like, it's
variation on.
possible.
It is. And love. What I mean, as a person who sees these, not necessarily physical craft, but you see orbs a lot, right?
Hmm.
Now, do you think these could be us somehow from the
Well-
future? From the past? From like, are beings inside these things controlling these that you're seeing, or are these
there's a
something
theory-
else?
There's theories that I've read that essentially, yes, we are them. The beings that we see are them from the future, and technically we are them. And that's why they have such a resonance to people who are in contact with with them, especially if you already had that sort of connection growing up.
Right.
And the thing is, I feel more of them being us from the future, but then at the same time, I don't believe, like I said, me personally, I believe that when I see these orbs, I don't think there's a being inside that craft. I believe that craft is the being, essentially. But I'm not saying like, oh, that the craft itself. I'm saying like it's sentient. That it's an orb, it's sentient. Like, it's hard to describe.
I get what you're saying. Totally.
Like, it
It's
has
some
no
kind of life
physical
form.
body. It's just it.
It's very it's of a higher resonance, for lack of a better term, right? It's like the next evolution. Like, maybe you go from biological to cybernetic, and then further down the line you figure out a way to just become like pure light, that type of thing. Obviously all speculative, but a lot of people report not even just orbs, but craft, that they sense that the craft was basically alive.
I would love to hear this guy's story.
Zio, yeah.
I would
Zio's
love
my
to hear
buddy.
this.
I went to high school with Zio.
Is he messing with me right now?
No, so Zio has had. I had mentioned this.
You
the last
honestly
show.
believe that he's had?
He's had some wild experiences, man, and I was there for his.
Now, of course,
reactions
I
to
have
some of
to
them.
start from a very, very skeptic point of view.
Of course,
With
and he
with
knows
just
that.
the subject matter we're even encroaching on, right? Just because it's so vastly
Beyond the range of
reckless.
normal human experience.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so, right? It's so hard to even fucking fathom how such thing would work. So I would love to hear that story one day. But
Yeah, he's got a lot.
consciousness, I think, is definitely a factor, right? I think consciousness is at the center of the whole equation. And I don't think science has really taken that account or taken that into the scientific method and actually done, rigorous study on it. I know there are different colleges and universities that do have studies on consciousness, but I think they're looking in the wrong places.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I feel that materialism is dying at this point. That the only way we're going to solve any of this is to basically think outside of the box. At this point, we can't be looking at consciousness, especially from the old perspective. We need to start having more respect for anecdotal evidence. Of course, you can't replicate it in a lab. You can't experiment with it per se, but anecdotal evidence is massive. We need to really start taking people's experiences into account, creating data sets out of that, and look at the patterns.
It's, you know what it is though. People don't
Consciousness-
trust people.
Yeah. Oh, of course, because there's a
People
lot of
don't
people out there
really
that want to tell a
fucking-
story.
Yeah, people don't really.
I agree. It's tough. It's really
See-
tough.
Even for me, like what was my first instinct was to not believe them.
Right, and that's
Or
fine. That's
to-
natural.
Right. But do you think that's also does that also maybe hinder our ability in some way?
Sometimes I think that's the case, because if you have 10 people in front of you telling you these kinds of stories, and let's just say one of them is telling the truth, but you think everybody's wacky, well, guess what? You missed it. It just blew past you, and they were telling you the truth the whole time. We have to be open-minded, and it's okay to be skeptical, but I mean, human beings have this instinct that I believe is in all of us. When someone's telling you something genuine that really affected them, sometimes you really just feel it. Like the Virginia case is like a perfect example. Those witnesses, I felt what they were feeling. Like it really hit me like a lightning bolt. I'm
Yeah, it
like,
did
that guy's
resonate.
not lying. He's out there
By
in
the
the
way-
field in tears.
Love, did you ever end up watching fucking Moment of Contact?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I forgot to give you my Amazon, I think.
Yeah.
I'll do that tonight.
Yeah.
'Cause I
Alright.
want you to watch Moment of Contact, man, because I think you'd relate to it super hard. Just like some of the testimony is just downright like jaw dropping, like literally jaw. Like I had to watch it twice in a row just to like, because I was, it's funny. I was taking notes when I was watching it. Now I hate watching movies like that. When I did movie podcasts, I always had to bring a notebook with me to the theater. It sucked. It's not a good way to watch a film, is to take notes during it. The first time I didn't even write anything down. I forgot to. Like I literally forgot because I was so mesmerized by the story and just the credibility of some of these people. And but speaking of that, a lot of that culture down there in Brazil, in South America, think culturally that these are like demonic in nature. They're bred to believe that. Well, not bred to believe it, but they're raised to believe, in angels and demons. So when they see a being that is maybe otherworldly, they chalk it to the devil. So what happens when a real moment of contact happens? Are we going to call these guys devils?
Some people will, because they're probably one and the same. If you just look at the characteristics of angels and demons and the jinn and all these other creatures and beings throughout time, it's like you could kind of say, hey, demons and aliens and angels, they're all probably the same thing. It just makes the most sense. But somewhere down the line, kind of like with Satan and God, one was given a positive connotation, the other negative. And how that happened, hard to say, but they could all just have just different agendas. None of them, they may all not be evil per se. They may just be acting in their own self-interest.
Have either of you heard of the narrative or one of the hypotheses that there's multiple alien species in some sort of federation? This is derived from the Israeli space chief
and the Canadian
the Canadian
prime minister.
Not prime minister.
Oh yeah, no, what's he the
The Galactic Federation.
Yes, and that there's at least one species that does not have humans or Earth's best interest or maybe humans' best interest at heart.
I have heard all of
Does
that.
Practicing CE5 though, most people say there's no such thing as evil alien, like evil advanced cultures. That's CE5 specifically, Dr. Greer, but not Heiss necessarily. So I'd be interested to get what your take is, Love.
Okay, let me say this for Stephen Greer. He only opposes one side. He only looks at one side of the table. He doesn't try to look at all things. That's the problem with Stephen Greer, is that since he only looks at one thing and think, oh, like he probably knows deep inside that you can't have the negative without the positive, you know. And the thing is, I do believe that there is such thing as a galactic federation. Like the first incident that ever happened actually with the Galactic Federation, was that radio station of the Ashtar Command. If you heard about it.
Oh yeah, I know
Care to
this story.
explain?
Okay, so essentially, it was a message for humanity, and that message was broadcasted on TV. Like almost like it only happened in one area. Essentially, it took all the parts from that area, and then it broadcasts in that TV.
This
Hold
was
on one second.
this was a real thing that happened.
Yeah, they interrupted a television broadcast with this.
So who
We don't-
interrupted it?
So they claimed to be Ashtar from the Galactic Federation. I mean, I'll be
I've heard
honest.
that name before.
Yeah, it's very common.
Ashtar.
Yeah, it's very common in like the very new agey circles that believe in like the Galactic Federation of Light, and a lot of them believe in like contacting like the Archangel Michael and all that. I'll be honest though, the broadcast itself, I'm personally skeptical of it, but
I've never even heard of this. So I mean, it can't be too mainstream or
Yeah,
believed. It can't be too mainstream believed. I can't. I don't think that sentence makes sense.
no, I know what you're saying though. I get
But you know what I mean? I don't think I've never seen it on any documentary. Nothing.
Yeah, I only saw it a couple times. I'm skeptical of it. I believe I heard either a recording or saw a video clip of it, and I don't know, it just came off like somebody who hijacked a broadcast and was messing around. But
I want to hear more though. I again,
I don't know.
even though I don't agree with Stephen Greer, I still listen. And again, I want to say thank you, Lisa, for the another super chat, $5. And I want to go take this moment to actually break it up a little bit and say, because what I've been forgetting to do a lot lately is what we're supposed to do. Now I hate to do this, but if you guys do have or willing to support the channel, super chats are a great way to do it. Membership as well, or Patreon. All the links are in the description below. All the equipment, all the stuff that we do, you wouldn't believe how expensive it can get. And any help does actually support, and it goes back into the production. So I truly appreciate it, and I know these guys do as well, because we can keep doing fun things. I can keep going places like Catalina Island, and trust me, that's not the end of it. So thank you very much. So she says Ted Rowe thinks they are malevolent. He thinks they are here taking over. Now we've talked, I think Tom and I talked about that before, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. So tell me more about this fucking
Galactic Federation?
No. Specifically, finish the story about the broadcast.
Okay, so the broadcast was actually implemented, and then like the radio stations literally got hacked, but the message was clear though on what they were trying to assemble. They were basically saying that please take away your nuclear weapons, take away like trying to basically command peace upon the planet.
So right off the bat, not a bad narrative. Okay.
Yeah, and it's crazy because look, the thing about it is that
Thank you, Tom. The truth is coming, ladies and gentlemen.
Got you, man.
$5 super chat from the boy next door. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
So continues. Love him. Sorry.
So essentially, about this Ashtar command, coming into the broadcast, saying, live that basically it was just a humble message of saying that please stop these nuclear bombs, war, things that are just now happening throughout this planet, and whether it was a prank or not, or if it was a
hoax, yeah.
If it was an actual human, the message was still clear, like but if it was some extraterrestrial being named Ashtar, which he resembles a Pleiadian, um, then I hope he's right about this. I don't, I don't, it's hard for me to assume these kinds of things.
I get that. I get that. I just so and back to what back to this part of it about the civilizations taking us over. Now, I guess I'd want to be more specific. Are you talking about taking the Earth from us or taking us as slaves? Because I've genuinely thought about what are the reasons aliens, let's call them. I don't like that word, but let's say that. ETs, aliens. What are the reasons why they would travel such a far distance for our Earth? We could say resources, but we've started to notice. We've even started to notice that there's plenty of resources that are between us. Plenty. They don't have to come this far for it. Slave labor is truly the one thing that I'm like, all right, maybe. But if you think they're, if they're that advanced, couldn't they create maybe their own slave labor? Do they need our planet? Again, that goes back to, well, there's probably one closer. There's just so many holes I poke in those stories. So I find it hard to believe that they're here to take us. I think they're here to help us in some form or fashion.
Or, like the gentleman that I talked to you about the other day, Nigel Kerner, they're here because they're trying to understand something about us that they don't have.
Yeah. And I think one of the more prominent things that stick out to me is the nuclear warnings, right? Mm-hmm. Robert Salas, right? In the silos of a nuclear command center. 10 nukes shut down, turn back on. And he says the message is clear, right? Shut these fucking things down and toss them to the bottom of a well and just never look back, right? This has been a message from even little kids, right? Little kids saying that we're not treating our planet right. So many contactees have this warning, basically, like, you've been given paradise. Don't fuck it up.
That's a great way to say it.
And
a really good way to say it. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing.
So why not? Do you think it would eventually get to the point where they just have to come? Because if we continue on this path of destruction, now the question is, if they're here, I guess the question isn't if they're here. If they're watching or wanting to help, when do they step in? Literally step in. Or do they?
That's if they have a vested interest, honestly, in something to do with this planet. Like, I believe Jacques Vallée has talked about, and not even just him, but there's been other researchers that are of the belief that us using nuclear weapons doesn't just have an effect on our environment, but something about splitting the atom and the energy that's being released is causing problems in other dimensions. So that could be part of it. Think about it. If you look at
Edgar Mitchell
I gotta
said this.
find it. There's a graph that shows UFO sightings starting in the 1940s, and as soon as you hit the exact day of the Trinity test, the Manhattan Project, the spike is visible on that chart. So they have some kind of interest in those weapons being detonated. The question I always ask, though, is what is that interest considering how many nuclear tests have been carried out on this planet? There have been hundreds.
Thousands.
Yeah, maybe even
We're in
thousands.
the thousands. No, we are in the thousands now.
Yeah, and it's scary to think about that. So what consequences have there been in potential realities around us? Did we wipe out a civilization? It's really hard to say.
Imagine we find out, oh my God.
You killed 100 billion beings, right?
Imagine we are responsible for the death of just an inconceivable amount of people.
Right. What if we're on probation?
Oh my God, that's such a weird thought.
Because it's stopped now, right? Like,
did you hear about the time that we tried to detonate a nuke into the atmosphere?
Yes, I know exactly
didn't
what you're
make it.
talking about. Yep.
It didn't make it into the atmosphere. It was almost like because they were launching the dummy one into the atmosphere, doing the test for it.
Yes.
And that's when the craft came and hit it with the three or four beams, and it just
Right.
fell and tumbled back in.
They had
Now,
a specific camera that picked it up too. It was like
Yeah.
a really expensive, and it said that.
And again, it
hovered
was
next
like-
to it and-
again, message kind of clear,
yes.
right? Like now you're encroaching on territory that you have no fucking idea the cataclysm it could cause. You're punching in the dark, and you are still very. I assume that we're still primitive in some form or fashion.
Mhm.
We
We
like to
have to
think
be.
that we're the alpha because we are here, but I don't think we're the alpha in the
We're
universe.
primitive in certain areas and not primitive in others. Again, it's I've always described it as the kids got into the cabinet and now they have the matches. That's
Love,
the
what do
best
you
way
do?
to
You think
describe
that
it.
there are implications through the multiverse when we split the atom?
Oh yeah, of course. Like I wanted to say, people don't realize this, but when you set off a bomb, what happens is that it creates this frequency, so powerful that it can not just affect us, it can also affect things that were Cortex said, um that the other dimensions that are actually there that we cannot perceive, but we're really destroying other things because it creates a large vibration to the point where it's not just detonating the whole city or whatever bomb is detonating with whoever. It's also detonating the things that we cannot see around us, and that's very and that's a very bad thing for whoever is actually living here in this universe, because I believe that there's layer over layer in our dimensions, because we're always walking, like the things that we can't even see on the floor that are probably there in your house, it's wherever.
Right. You're talking, like every leaf is its own universe.
Right.
Understood.
And the
So-
first bomb created was by Einstein.
No, Oppenheimer.
Oh,
Well, Einstein had a part in it.
Maybe
yeah,
hasn't
he had
thought
a
that
part
out.
of in the with the nuclear physics, but he even had a quote saying,
Well, he
that,
gave way to it all.
right,
you know,
right.
Yeah.
He,
So
but he said that if he didn't do it, if he knew that this was going to be used for that purpose, he would have never done it for them in Germany.
Oppenheimer actually most regretted it. Said that he thinks, or there's it's a quote to some degree. Now I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, now we have the key to our destruction, and I gave it to us.
Damn.
He took a quote from ancient Hindu text from the Vedas where he said, "Now I am become death, the
There it is.
destroyer of worlds." Yeah, he
Yep.
again, there's that Oppenheimer movie coming
There's
out. that-
so Chris Nolan's doing the Oppenheimer film, because people like to think that I just stopped watching movies. This is definitely not the case. Like, I had someone recently message me and they're like, "So you just don't go see movies anymore? Like, you don't go see comic book movies anymore?" I'm like, "What? No, I just don't want to talk about them with you guys anymore because you guys are so toxic." Like, I jumped to the UFO community because the other one was too toxic.
my
And some
God.
people looked at me sideways and they were like, "Well, you don't know what you're getting yourself into now, boy." But I thoroughly cannot sit idly by and talk about who's playing Superman when there's potentially, something that is about to drop. And everything in my gut says that I think the paradigm is about to change. I think that what if they're here to see something? What if they're here to see the singularity?
Oh,
or
that is
see
a
the moment?
great theory.
Right.
Oh my
What if-
God.
What if they know it's about to happen and they're here because they want to see the transition between levels of, consciousness achieving, right? And could they be potentially helping it push forward? Now, these are all very viable, and they make your beliefs gets really stretched when you start thinking about this. But in our lifetime, I think our kids will live during very radically different times.
What's funny? I I took notes like weeks ago, because I had, I told you whenever I have some thoughts running through my head, right?
I do
And
it.
it's,
Yeah, I do it too.
so here, I'll just read this real quick. I said, perhaps the creation of intelligent life is a sort of back and forth that progresses over millennia. Biological life creates artificial intelligence experiments and creates or alters and manipulates biological life, which then goes on and creates artificial intelligence and so on. And then I
Right.
said, is some form of alien intelligence nudging our civilization in the direction of developing artificial intelligence in order to unlock the secrets of the human soul, potentially by way of electronic symbiosis of flesh and machine? And are the Greys merely avatars or icons for another intelligence behind the curtain? Is it possible these beings act as bipedal drones or probes that are under the control of others?
Hmm.
So, yeah, I've had that thought. That's why that you just
It's a
like
lot to
absolutely
dig- yeah,
nailed what I
yeah.
thought about.
Yeah, exactly. And I like this read. He says, I wonder if the UFO aliens are coming to regular people first because they're angry, or they got angry that the U.S. government was trying to silence them, the others who saw them.
Yeah, you got to wonder, how much do they know about?
Or-
Like, how much do they know from their perspective?
Right. And it's, we think that, look at what we have look at where we're talking on right now, right? We have all information seemingly at our fingertips. But I would assume, or I would have to assume, that they're on a whole nother fucking playing field with, information database. So could they tell us our origin story? Because I'm very interested. No one can actually tell, like, there's no person that's accredited with naming Earth Earth. Think about that. Think about how fucking freaky that sounds.
That's
Not
wild.
one person is credited with naming Earth.
I
Who-
never thought about that before.
Who? Yeah.
Yeah, like who named Earth?
It's like who gave the planet the
Who
name
gave it
Earth?
the name Earth? Because no one seems to know. It's really like, how do we not? And that's why I really like Graham Hancock, and I really enjoy his stuff, because he says something often that I believe is, we are a species with amnesia. How do we not know our own fucking story? Are we that naive? Are we consumed in normalcy bias?
Oh, I'm sure to some degree.
You know what I believe is that the fact that, like, I strongly believe that the thing about us being human in the first place should give us an indication that we're not really different from any other animal, except the fact that we're able to talk and have conscious thoughts about what we're able to speak about. It's the fact that since we're still in the category of being mammals and part, and human and all this other stuff that have been created towards, I feel like the thing about us is that it applies that we just are not really allowed to know anything at all. Like almost every other animal or every other species that are still wandering the earth, not knowing what the hell is going on. So it's crazy to me that it still applies to us. But I don't believe that extraterrestrials also have all the answers, or not even them. I feel like they're the same way. I feel like they're still pondering, wondering, and still, and just doing whatever, because whatever lies here within our world is the fact that, we all have the free will to do whatever. So I also believe that they also have the free will to do whatever that they feel or want, the same way we do.
Yeah, there was a narrative that was going around that I heard about how we could potentially be, because and shout out to Adam, by the way, for throwing this 199 super chat, talking about, are we an experiment? Now, take this a different direction, back to the Galactic Federation. Could we be a treaty? Could we be a gathering of DNA to almost be the child of the universe? And that's why there's various species around us all the time, because they all have vested interests in us, and we are an experiment into free will, right? I think that's a very, very if any hypothesis sounds like something that's legitimate, that's one of them. I think, in my mind, at least. Because why would they be? Unless we're at Disneyland. Because we could also be Disneyland, right? Go see the dumb apes with thermonuclear weapons. Come one, come all.
Could you
right?
imagine if that's like what we were to like
Come one,
go
come
out to the
all.
neighborhood?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And all the aliens talk to each other like, yo, you gotta see this fucking place. They are so stupidly smart. Go check it out. And then they all come here, right? What if we're, right? Like the Phoenix Lights was just a craft that was like, just got too close.
We're the main
Just
attraction.
checking us out. Yeah. We're the main attraction.
We're the bearded lady of the Milky Way.
But think about it. Think about it, right? I mean, our planet, it's so diverse in its nature, right? Everyone talks, all these religious zealots and all these religious scholars and talk about paradise. And I said it earlier. We were given paradise. We just don't treat, we don't grow up loving it like we should. Like, we all hate our hometown. I guarantee your hometown wasn't that bad. We're all just bred to hate where we are, and we want to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But we're living on paradise. I can assure you of it.
Oh yeah, better than Mercury.
Want to go
or
to
Venus.
Mars? Mercury? Yeah, I was literally want to go down the list. Would you like me to drop you at Pluto?
Want some acid rain outside?
Yeah. Would you like me to, or any of the, where do you want to go? Because really, we got it going on, in my mind, right?
We have it good here for sure. We can breathe. Wow.
We got it good. Life, clearly, these Goldilocks planets are special, right? So life doesn't just happen. It needs the correct conditions. So we already live in a paradise. So to suggest otherwise, or to suggest that we need to live our lives to get to paradise, it just seems stupid to me.
We are special, but I'm beginning to really lean towards the idea that some of these visitors are here because not only has life sprung up here, but some of that life, meaning us, has a connection with the divine spark, for lack of a better term. That this is something that maybe like life is rare technically, but our connection to the Godhead, we'll call it, is even more rare. Speaking of Godhead.
Giorgio, George.
I love Giorgio.
I would love to talk to Giorgio, bro.
I like him. I really do. I think he's a character, but I think
I don't like
he's a
David
wealth of knowledge.
Childress.
He's funny too, man.
Nah, that guy sucks, man.
Now you don't like it. Well, I mean,
you gotta ask yourself: is it alien in origin? That's like,
I love
it's like his
Giorgio,
number
though.
one fucking quote.
Extraterrestrials in the remote past. Right? Like every show, he opens with that. He's on the floor. Your show isn't serious enough, Tom.
It's too fucking silly. Dude, I'm dead. That's exactly what he fucking says. But the only one I really take seriously is the Von Daniken guy.
Oh, Von Daniken's a treasure,
because he
man.
started fucking the thing. God, no, David Childress to me is like, I can't stand that guy. But Giorgio's not bad. I think Giorgio's
You like Nick
in
Redfern?
the remote past. Nick Pope loves Ancient Aliens too.
Nick Redfern's cool though too. Like he's on there every now and then, but man, I'll tell you what. Like I read a few of his books. Like that guy's he's a wealth of knowledge. Like
Yeah, I mean,
he
like
impressed
even
me.
guys like Ryan Sprague have been on Ancient Aliens, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, if they asked me to go on the show, I would.
I'd do it.
No second thought would go into my mind. I'd immediately do it.
It's
So-
such a fascinating topic. It's
is.
irresistible for me.
But I think the show, and no offense to the show, but I think the show has honestly done damage to the reputation. And
Partially.
it's the first like 3-4 seasons, because originally it was a movie, like a little documentary. It's called Ancient Aliens, and that's like where they sprung the idea. That's why in the first couple seasons it always said Ancient Aliens the series, because
Yes.
it was trying to, differentiate it. And I think the first like 3 or 4 seasons, that's where the core knowledge is. Everything after is just like, TV.
It's scattered too. Like there's good information, like I've said, that I've spotted, but it's sprinkled in. It's all over the place there. But there's still some really great stuff that they're doing, and really fascinating topics that they dive into. But then there's those episodes that feel like filler.
For sure. And they're doing like a live tour right now, and they were in my area, and I literally heard about it the day the show was happening. I was
Oh,
like,
man.
you motherfucker!
I
would have went.
I would have went
for sure.
Why not?
Love, what do you think of that show?
Which show?
And I know you gotta be up early, so if you ever, if you gotta bounce at any time, you just let me know.
All right. Wait,
right.
but what show were you referencing?
This whole time you didn't know what show we were talking about? I feel
Ancient
so
Aliens?
bad. Ancient Aliens, yeah.
Oh yeah. My bad. I mean, the thing about it is that, like I've seen I've seen some Ancient Aliens. I didn't really dive too far into it, only because it's like I don't know, it's very the way that they talk about it on there is very I don't know if I can take those people serious.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
For everyone.
right? And Zio, to that effect, I am part of a project that is aiming to stop this very thing. I can't talk much about it yet. We will be able to shortly, but just say we're working on it. Trust me.
What do you think the move forward is then, Tide, as far as not entertainment, but media about this topic? What do you suppose would be the best way?
James Fox style shit.
I agree
Simple.
with that.
Plain and simple.
Investigations on the ground.
Yes, and get rid of the fucking scary alien music. Get rid of the evil looking creatures cutaways. Like, get rid of all that shit, because it's nonsense. I don't want to see it anymore.
The X-Files theme being played on like CBS when they're
Do you know
talking
how many
about
times
sightings.
Do you know how many
Yeah, I
times
agree with
Whitley
you.
Strieber had to walk out to the X-Files music, and he's trying to tell people about being anally probed? That's not comfortable.
And then he got made fun of for
And
it.
he got
and
made
ridiculed.
fun
It's
of,
like,
and oh my God, imagine. And no wonder the stigmatization of this continued for so long. And because the people that were part of the media weren't helping.
right. Yeah,
No
not at
one
all.
wanted to take
Didn't
this
it
shit seriously.
Nope, they don't. And it's gotten better, significantly better, like in ways that I thought would never happen until they came down here and waved at us. But we're not all the way there yet. Again, I'm with my YouTube channel. I am really making a focus on giving experiencers a voice, because as someone who's had anxiety disorder myself, I see myself in some of these people. I had my own issues, but I can see the fear, the discomfort in their eyes sometimes when they're talking about this, and their lives are like a living hell. It's like, whether it's real or not, it's real to them. And that's an important distinction that needs to be made. Whether it is because of mental illness or something else is going on, it's case by case. But those people do not deserve to be just thrown to the side like, oh, you're just a weirdo. That's not fair at all. It's the equivalent of ousting somebody from society for mental illness. Like, and let's just suppose for a moment that these people really are telling the truth. Then you are really making a grave mistake, because something happened to them out of their control. And you're just pushing them to the side like it doesn't matter. And then it's just even harder for them. So that's why I am always going to stand up for experiencers that I personally believe are being genuine, like Whitley. Like, I believe Whitley's story. I do. I read his book 12 times. I read Communion 12 times. And
I like what I like about
God.
that is, I mean, the detail is
yes,
immaculate.
he remembers the smells and stuff. It's like, listen, man, I know the guy was a writer, but like the people that knew him even spoke about this and said, no, I was up at that cabin. Like, he had friends that were up at that cabin.
Yeah,
and
many people.
They said weird stuff was going on.
Yeah. Love, do you ever get worried about, like, honest to God, you ever get worried about being abducted by a craft that you call?
Not really. It's not that, because when you put the fear factor to it, it's like it's now opening.
Joe
Okay,
Rogan just clanked the glass somewhere, by the way.
like essentially, like I feel like the thing about the abductions, I feel like when you open yourself to them, it's not even about abduction anymore. I kind of believe in taking it further, and hopefully one day actually getting on their craft, if that is ever possible. Without being abducted. You have your own free will of whether you don't want to be, and it's like it's like picking someone up. It's like picking someone up if they are willing to actually go with them for that moment.
See, that's what I said. I literally am broadcasting, I hope, to everywhere, right? Somewhere the internet ether is in the aliens craft. Literally. If you want to do some research on a human, my door is open. Just ask. Do not fucking take me out of my bed, because then we're going to have an issue. Come knock at the door and ask. I'll give you some blood. Whatever you want. I got you.
My God.
Take me for a ride, and there we go. We're even. Call it square. But do not fucking abduct me. I don't want that, because I don't like that.
Yeah,
No,
that's
just
a
ask.
no-go. That's not the mannerly thing to do.
And I want to go back to what Cortex was saying about like the mental illness. You see, I kind of want to go back to that, because you see, like I had one thing to say about that. Like when you call someone schizophrenic or this or that, like because you see, there's a difference between people who are actually seeing actual things that are in front of them, instead of if someone's making stuff up in their mind, saying like, oh, this person did that to me, and then did this and that. Because I've had an experience with someone like that, where they started to believe certain things that are not even true. And the thing is that calling some, like, for me, it's kind of like disrespectful to the natives. It's disrespectful to the aboriginals, to the people who were communicating with nature. Like, oh, so all those people apparently are schizophrenic too. Like people like that. It's very it comes from culture. It comes from people who actually know the land, that studied it. Without those kinds of people, we wouldn't know what to eat. We wouldn't know what to actually pick up and get for ourselves. Like, people have to die literally eating plants to know which plant is right for us.
Right.
And because they knew what nature was to them, and that's where it all comes from. Because, like, I don't know, I don't like these terminology words when it comes to schizophrenia, or that you have this or you have that. Like, I don't, to me, that's just all modern words that you created for something to cause something, a mental illness, unless that person actually has a real mental illness.
Yeah. I do have something to say on that, but to answer Lisa, yeah, I have Crohn's. My doctor probed me last month. I'm already.
You do have Crohn's.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Wow.
I get I have to. That's not to be. That was supposed to be a joke as well. I'm not. I'm not being serious. But I do once a year. You gotta go in for that unfortunate test with Crohn's, and it's the one that we are still very primitive with, if you know what I mean.
Primitive.
Yeah. So, probing it is what it is, right? Again, just ask. That's all I ask.
It's for your own good.
Yeah, just ask. But love, I have a person in my not direct family, but of close relation, who has multiple personalities. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's so more complex than when people say schizophrenia, they don't really truly understand it. It's not, I don't know. I know what you mean though. But when you see someone switch a personality, it feels supernatural. it's the closest thing I could explain, closest thing I could say to like watching it happen in front of your eyes, because I've seen it. It's not something that you're ready for when it happens for the first time, at least. You know, I don't know about the 20th, 29th time, but the first time is very, very, it's uncomfortable because you don't really know what's happening. So yeah, I don't know. Mental illness is very,
I have
very
a theory. I have a theory on multiple personality. I feel like that could be like imagine what happens if people with multiple personality are people that have multiple souls within them. Like
yeah. Like, what if it's just like being born without a pinky, right? You were
Right.
like you
Right.
just you didn't get the normal set of genes, or quote unquote normal.
That could very well be it. We
Right?
have no way of knowing yet.
I just and it's I don't know. That's a rabbit hole. I guess I don't want to.
Ty, I gotta
down.
tell you though, just because I'm a little awestruck by what you said, I had my very first interaction with someone that has that multiple personality disorder about a month ago, and I don't know how else to word it other than how you just did. It was a girl, and it made the conversation confusing because it's like she knew what I was talking about, but then all of a sudden, like the next personality didn't understand the subject, and it was like switching back and forth between three personalities, and then an individual related to them that was with them, kind of bumped me and said, "Hey, they have multiple personality disorder," and you're right though, because there was even a change in like the eyes.
Well, with this
it was
person,
so
yeah.
hard to describe.
Yeah, but with this person in my family, there's different names and personality types,
Same thing with this.
different
Yes.
ages,
Yes.
and like my aunt knows them all. I often I don't see this person a lot, only at like holidays, and it usually the medication is keeping this person, the person I know. That's even a bad way to say it. There's no good way to say it, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it felt fucking supernatural to me because I was like, one moment it was this person was an adult, and the next moment this person was a child, and you don't know how you don't know how to explain it unless you've seen it, I suppose.
It's
because
startling.
it's crazy. It is startling.
It's not as
And
simple as people imagine it either. Like the mannerisms change, like
On a dime.
everything. On a dime. Yes.
On a dime.
And it makes it confusing. It does. It's very complicated, and I feel for those people. But you're right. It feels beyond medical when you witness it. Actually,
Yeah, like something else is going on. Like,
Yes.
and that's brought that kind of ties with whoever said it earlier. I forget, but what if they're piercing the veil in some sort of way? What if it's not as unusual as we think it is?
that's right. Our understanding of it could be completely wrong. Just like I was saying with schizophrenia, like people are seeing these things, but they are real things. We're just not seeing it. Think about this too. We know, all of us know, especially people like us that are into these topics, we see a very, very short band of the visible light spectrum. How do we know that schizophrenics are just, their brains have developed in such a way that they're getting quote unquote interference from other bands? It's just like a radio tuning to different frequencies, like, except that someone who's schizophrenic, the radio is on the fritz, and it's like the dial is always being switched left, right, but just long enough that they see these things, but then it blips out. Like,
Right.
it's possible. And I am no doctor, I'm no scientist. It may just be exactly what science says it is too. I could just be wrong. But again, I feel like we should try to be open-minded about these things, because I feel like that's the only way we're going to truly understand the universe at all. Like, I know not to get like too big picture-y here, but I feel like that we have to apply that same level of thinking to the phenomenon, that just angels, demons. It's like we have to look at all of the possibilities, because one of those possibilities is going to be the right one. You can't just throw things off to the side because you don't like it or it doesn't fit your narrative. Like, that's no path to truth, basically.
I want to say, like, has this ever happened to any of you? Like, where essentially you do something and then when you look up, or you stare anywhere and then you see like stars flashing or blinking lights, like where a star flashes out of nowhere, like in your
Yeah.
eyesight. I'm talking about your
Yes.
perception.
Yes.
Like I believe, a lot of and medium, they believe that those are actually spirits communicating with you. um I kind of believe it only because it's like there has been times where I'm talking to somebody and then like it wouldn't just only be like the white stars. Sometimes I would see them in different colors like blue, red, pink. um like it, and it makes me believe that nah, that has to be other stuff that's happening around me, or that's a way of them showing us to us without having to be, so fully on. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I know someone that believes exactly what you're saying that I know very close to me. They see what they call shimmers, and they believe that that is most likely to them their spirit guides. And this someone is very intuitive. They seem to know what you're thinking a lot of times. Like I've seen the examples, so you may very well be onto something with what you're talking about.
Well, even Whitley says that his wife has contacted him.
Fascinating information.
Right?
Fascinating.
So that's why the paranormal, if you want to quote unquote it, you know, are we looking at one giant phenomenon or separate phenomenon? I think is, I think the lines are a lot closer than we think, and there's something more to it. Because I've had moments where I've definitely, thought something was here with me, that I couldn't see, and not in a bad way, in a good way, like maybe my mother, who had gone in the last year. So it's definitely a weird feeling, and you kind of just brush it off. But same with the UFO sighting. When I saw it, I didn't know if I saw it. I don't even know if I believe my own memory. So again, there's this skepticism built in to everyone, and I think it's a hindering factor of ours to perceive these things.
Trust me, I felt spirits around me. I felt them touching me and all this other stuff. Like the thing is that like I don't know if you ever felt anything like this before. Like have you ever felt like somebody was hanging, like almost like hanging onto your shoulders and it felt heavy, or if your body ever felt heavy in the bed? Like
I
I,
have.
I like I feel like that. I felt certain things like that in my life, where I know that something is 100% there, and sometimes it's almost like it's crazy because I sometimes can feel it and see it move with my eyes. I can't physically see it, but I know that it's there 100% with me.
I know
Well,
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was in my bathroom one night, and in my basement bathroom. So there's no windows down here. Literally, there's one window that was closed, but it's one of these windows. I can't even show you. Basement windows when they're like these little ones.
Yeah, they're like long,
very very
thin
small
rectangles.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
it like unlatches. It's one of those windows, never open. And I was in the bathroom. Again, no windows, no flow of air. Like this came in, and it was a hard chill of like dropping 10 degrees, and I felt someone standing over my shoulder, and then that was it, and then it went away.
Yeah.
So it was like someone was there and then gone. So that was like my first, and it still kind of freaks me out thinking about it because it happened like 20 feet from me, right where I'm sitting.
I don't think nobody's ever alone in this universe. Like everybody has somebody, like even spirits surrounding them. It's and to me, the thing about since we call it the paranormal, the thing about it is that what happens if all these things are just literally normal? Like what, like we can't, like for instance, because just like science fiction, they love putting fiction next to science. You know, even though, back then they thought computers were science fiction or telephones were science fiction. I literally thought that, how people had like the watches, like now you're able to touch your screen. I thought that was impossible.
Mm.
And now look at where we are.
Yeah, literally James Bond. I got my first Apple Watch. I thought it was James Bond talking into it. I was like, "Holy shit, dude! What the fuck?"
Yeah,
Right?
Shaken,
Like,
not stirred.
yeah, you know what's funny? You know what's funny about all that is like, what's kind of creepy is that whole like Matt Groening time traveler thing, like how, because a lot of the shit that we talk about, Apple Watches included, were predicted on The Simpsons, like years before it happened. Many years before it happened.
Yes, it's a little odd.
Yeah, there's far too many
Yeah,
in The Simpsons
there's a lot.
to discount it as coincidence, because the big ones that people know about are things like the Trump coming down the elevator.
I was about to
one.
say that.
Yeah,
That one's been
that one's the
debunked.
big one. But that one's actually the furthest from like accurate, because that was taken out of context.
Right.
That whole thing. And like there was the Apple Watch. There was a video. Oh God, it was the other day, and they rattled all of them off, like all of them that they could think of. And we're talking about 20 to 30 different things.
Numerous.
A lot of people speculate that the Simpson creator was actually a Freemason, and that's how he was able to put in all this knowledge together within the Simpsons to basically reference the future. Like just look at Futurama and.
Well, Futurama is created by the same person too.
Right.
Yeah, Matt Groening.
So that's what I'm saying. Like
It's kind of like a slap in the face, kind of, right?
Yeah, like they're just showing us all these things, like directly. They know what they're doing.
They're the ones in control of all of this. Sure, I had another thought though that perhaps it's kind of like a collective consciousness sort of phenomenon, and it's not being done on purpose at all,
Or
and it's just
willing
happening.
it.
Right. Like, I mean, look at all of the, quote unquote predictive programming connected to 9/11 as a good example. That was floating around on YouTube back in like 2010. And I mean, it was like an hour-long video of all these really bizarre coincidences. And it's just like, I feel like because it was such a major event, that it wasn't necessarily being projected into media on purpose. I think it was our collective unconscious knew it was coming because it's non-local, and it began to spill out into media.
Could that
unknowingly.
happen? Could groups of consciousness affect talk about the random number generator hypothesis or experiments, right? And could a collective consciousness affect the energy around it or the environment around it? And I mean, yeah,
I believe it can.
I think so. Right? Water molecules, or I can't remember what it was.
It was a Japanese scientist that
Right.
did this, and he would intention and music.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's what it was. The
I'll get
water
the guy's
molecules
name.
were different with different emotions.
Fascinating.
So
Fascinating.
fucking crazy. So crazy. And to think and then speaking of that unsolved mysteries one, they talked about the mass depression like that happened before it, or like a depression that hit right before the tsunami. Like
Yes.
people were feeling people were feeling down.
You know what happened to me? I was in Zio's room. Okay, this is terrible, but Zio knows what's coming here. And we were dicking around playing video games, whatever. And I don't know if we were telling like tasteless jokes on purpose. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just when you're with your friends, you'll
locker
tell.
room.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, right? Like exactly. And I don't know. I made some kind of joke or reference to Japan, and dude, like 5 minutes later, the tsunami, Fukushima,
gosh.
and I was just looking at Zio like, I don't like what just happened. So there's always been this kind of like running inside joke that he kind of hits me with every now and then. He's like, "Hey, remember that one time you caused a tsunami?" I'm just like,
Yeah,
"Dude,
that
shut up."
Just killed a bunch of fucking
So
people.
I found a scientist with the water experiment. His name was Masaru Emoto. It says his experiments on water molecules actually proved that our thoughts, attitudes, emotions, and intentions could physically change the molecular structure of water.
Of
For
water, yeah.
example, the crystals formed with water introduced to words of love and gratitude were clear, big, and beautiful. Yeah, this is a very famous experiment. I know that it's debated in the scientific community because of the controls, and it's like, okay, come on.
Right.
This guy
It's
was pretty
conscious, it's
brilliant. I
alive.
think he was onto something.
Right.
I feel like water is conscious and it's alive. That's the like if you want to think
Could
about
be.
it, that like with you can't. The only thing in this world that we are not able to hold is water and gas. The only way to hold it is through a cup. You can't physically hold water.
Nothing physically touches, apparently, either at the molecular level. Ever.
Right.
That's a really good fucking point. You can't hold water
Can't
unless
hold
you
anything.
contain it. Right. Yeah, I saw this stupid. Oh my god, so stupid. But you know these idiots on TikTok that like they just think they know everything, and the guy was like talking about.
I hate
He's
the
like,
TikTok shit.
he's like, dude, I deleted TikTok to be honest. I deleted it because just
I never used it.
I went through. I started after Joe Rogan went through the privacy policies. I started getting very interested in who's controlling it, and it does make me a little, unnerved.
Yes.
To say when you start following the rabbit, following the trail, it's a little discerning. So, but this kid was like talking about how water takes the shape of the container. It's always looking for its surface or its level, which is true. And then he's like, so how is it on Earth? Is the Earth, he's basically trying to say the Earth is flat. And I'm like, oh, God.
Oh, my God, I'm KO'd from
How
this.
many times do we have to talk about gravity with these idiots?
I can't. I cannot.
the
They
only-
disproved flat Earth themselves and then looked for a way to debunk their own experiment.
Yeah.
They
It's like,
paid
dude,
thousands of dollars for
how
it.
many times do we have to have this fucking gravity talk with you children?
Oh, my.
But
Everything else
anyway.
is just round, right? The sky, it's just lights, right?
Yeah.
They're not stars. Saturn has rings when you look at it through a telescope, but that's just to fool us, right? Like, come
very
on,
much.
man.
That is and all the airplane pilots are in on it.
All
They-
of them.
About it,
Every single pilot that does international flights or around the world flights, they're all in on it.
All
somehow.
Freemasons. 30
Right.
and the crazy part is that the thing about and where they get these concepts and ideas is from the Bible. They call it the firmament,
Firmament.
or above the waters.
Yes, the water is above. Yep.
Yeah,
Speak more. What?
okay, so essentially, where they also get this flat Earth theory is that the four corners and the fact that it talks about the firmament in the Bible above the waters. And some
Well, you're gonna have to
people try-
explain that part to me because that's where you lose me.
Okay, so
I have not
essentially-
read the Bible.
Okay, so essentially the firmament is this so it's basically what people believe to be the flat earth theory. And that's where they get it from a religious context of and essentially me personally I don't believe in the flat earth theory. It's to me it's sort of like it's kind of like I believe if it was flat, if it was round, I don't care if it was a triangle. It's like it's essentially like okay, so the firmament is all it is the flat earth theory of Argarth, and they also base it off this map that was a long time ago before it was round. I don't know what the image, I forgot what the image is, but there's something about that, and that's what a lot of people come from to the realization of the earth being flat.
Oh God.
I'd like to add to that if I could too. So,
And is Zio saying that he believes the Earth is flat here?
no. He's talking about his last comment was about the whatchamacallit, the whole
Be right
tsunami
back.
thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Imagine we were a fucking triangle.
that would be pretty cool. We're actually an oblique spheroid.
There
That's-
is. They talk
It
about a
shifts.
protrude.
Yes,
Also,
it
there's a
shifts.
protruding
So-
area.
That term that he's using, the firmament. So I thought, okay, it's also called the waters above, right? And some people also believe that not only is the Earth flat, but that we're contained in like this dome like structure, and it's like God knows where that came from, right?
I've seen the picture of it.
So
yeah.
I thought of something different. Now they call it the waters above, right? And I think they have it all wrong, but it's actually fascinating what I think it really means because of how old this information is. Clearly, thousands of years ago, at least in the biblical period, we were not sending people into space at that time with rockets. There were people living in the deserts. I'm talking specifically when these things were written, like time of Christ, 2,000 years ago, right? So check this out. The waters above. Well, what happens when a person is in water? They swim, they float, zero gravity, the waters above. Catching my drift? So they literally compared space to water, and you float in water, you float in 0 G. So I always thought that was fascinating, that it's like, okay, you guys are over here doing your flat earth thing, but there's a connection there that is different than I think people are missing out on.
Yeah. And
theories of everything, what's up?
Yeah, to Kurt, yeah, I'm definitely down to come on.
What's up, Kurt?
Tonanza.
What's going on, Kurt?
I don't what is I'm sorry, is that the panel that he does? Because I watch his interviews. I don't think I've ever heard him use the phrase Tonanza. He invited me on last time. I'm actually I would love to come on, of course, dude. I mean,
yeah, I love his
theories
show.
of everything, of course, man. And
Great show.
He was, by the way, I criticized him so fucking severely, and he reached out and had a conversation with me like a person should, and I came back on pretty much all of my arguments were, I looked back and I was like, oh my God, it was so stupid.
He's had some amazing people on. Bernardo
like,
Castro.
Oh my God,
like
what I said was so stupid.
Well, hey man, you know what? I think that's a really organic way of making a friend sometimes. When it's, some people that I'm friends with online, we didn't have the best.
Like he has no reason.
meeting.
He has no reason reaching out to me at all. You know, I'm a blip on his radar at this point.
Yeah, so am I too. You know what I mean? I'm right there with you and I have similar subscriber counts, right? Like we're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah,
this show is
and
fantastic.
my YouTube does a lot worse now, and my podcast, like the podcast, will do 7,000-8,000 downloads an episode on average. But the skew for YouTube is that's why I haven't been putting as much time into it. But thanks. I modified. I think we both have. It was what I criticized him about was his interview with Dr. Greer. I basically said I thought they both went in with objectives, and to call myself out, I don't think that was necessarily the case on Kurt's part, but I do on Dr. Greer's part. Dr. Greer was clearly interested in the platform. That's it, right? Not in the actual conversation.
You see what he just said?
Yes, the 40 plus. So it's a once a year
that's
event.
Wild.
Okay. That's why I haven't heard about it then.
Wild.
Because it only happens once a year. So yeah, I'm definitely heading down that. And I talked to him about coming on here as well. By the way, this Sunday we're joined by Stephen Bassett of the Paradigm Research Group. Again, I was hoping we were going to be able to talk about the UAP report. Every single time I bring this guy on, we're like, all right, we're going to talk about the UAP report. Hopefully it's out by then. And
oh, God.
Not fucking out.
We're still waiting.
Still goddamn fucking waiting.
It's January 4th. Like they said October.
Oh, my God. Like every time, too. I'm like, we'll push it out 2 months, too. I pushed it out 2 months trying to get their UAP report discussed with this gentleman, and it's just not working. And I was like, dude, this Sunday it's a no matter what clause, because I can't wait any longer. No matter what
clause, I like that. Let's get that in writing.
Hey, bro.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up as well. But, Love, why don't you tell us where we can find you? I know you want to head out. You got to be up early.
On Instagram, Love is Perspective, and my podcast is Exterior Knowledge.
All right. And shout out to Kurt as well. Definitely, I think everyone should check out Theories of Everything.
Oh yeah.
Show is so good. And then
So good.
Exterior Knowledge. So they just type that in on. Is it on Spotify and stuff?
Oh no, it's only on YouTube.
So you just do it on YouTube exclusively?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And Tom, where can they find you as well?
Oh, I am Cortex Zero on YouTube, as you can see how it's spelled there. I am on Twitter, very active on there in the UFO community, and I am at Atomic Thomas, but just change the O's to zeros. And then I run Podcast Zero on Spotify and other platforms, which on a little bit of a break right now, but within the next probably like 4 to 5 days, there's going to be some new material on there. And of course, my website, zerodigitaldesigns.com.
Awesome. Thank you both for joining me tonight.
Oh yeah, no problem, man.
It was my
It
pleasure.
was pretty amazing.
And of course, we'll keep this conversation going, and we'll be definitely doing this again soon. With that being said, guys, make sure to smash that like button. Share the show across social media with your friends, family, and the Grays. I don't know. Did it work? I don't think it worked. No? Didn't work? Okay.
Of course it
we'll
worked.
move on.
Sure it did.
And subscribe, ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And please, if you can, support the show by sending a super chat, whatever you think the show's worth to you, or become a member. And we're going to be working on, one-on-one discussions, a yearly gift, and Patreon only live shows. It's just I got to reach a certain number before it's worth doing. So hopefully we'll get there. 2023 is the year, and I hope 2023 is the year of disclosure, but we'll see. We shall see. I love you all. Keep looking to the sky.